meant to go. Yeah, I was gonna say it's a place,
But I need 6 inches.
Let's go to meeting order. If you would, we're gonna stand and let Brother Bob lead us in prayer, and then we'll pledge allegiance.
You will bow your heads. Father, we thank you always for the things you do for us. We ask you to give us wisdom today, making decisions that affect so many people here. We know that it's been a stressful time, but we know that Christmas is here, and we celebrate your Son Jesus' birthday. We thank you for his salvation, his love and concern for each one of us. We ask that you be with us today, bless each person present, and give us the wisdom again that we need to do the right thing, because as Christians we know the right thing is the right thing to do. And in Jesus' name we ask this. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mr. Pollock?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Kathy?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Webb?
Here. Thank you. Before we begin, we want to welcome Mario Driscoll with us he's our standing city administrator, and we welcome you on board, sir, and glad to have you with us. We have this is Tuesday, it's December 10th. We're here at our regular monthly meeting, and I think if we ought to just go ahead and address, is anybody going to be here for the next regular schedule meeting, which is the 24th? You'll be here. I'm not going to be. No, I'm teasing. Traditionally, we cancel that meeting, and I think we ought to just go ahead and make that a public announcement that we won't meet again then until the second Tuesday of January.
Well, you can give my present, early.
Oh, I got you. I'll do that. I'll leave it under the tree. I'd say that about you. All right. So we have our agenda. We will move on with that. And our first item is traditionally, Mario, I don't know, I guess I didn't have a chance to tell you, but traditionally, the administrator sort of gives us, are you familiar with everything as far as these replats?
And yes, sir, we've been looking at everything.
Okay, then what we like to do, even before we open the public hearing, is simply give an overview of what we're going to discuss, and then I'll open the public hearing for comments, if you want to do that. Just a brief overview of what the item is for the public.
Okay. 113 39th Street South, Unit 1 is here for a replat. It's within the documents. It's going to be on page 3. So go back to page 3.
Okay.
And there's a plat sketch within the documents. There's 2 lots that do not meet the current density. However, the reduction in density is generally is a good thing for the council members. We go up from 3 units to 2 units, so if that's within reason. And I know that building and or the planning department is here, so if there's any detailed questions for them.
Okay. We'll open the meeting for a public hearing on 113 39th Street. Is anyone here to speak?
Rick Bittner and Iris, the owners. Again, we were part of the 6-unit townhouse complex there that were all destroyed in the storm. 2 of us, the Atwaters, were on the northern end neighbor to buy their lot, who wishes not to rebuild, so we're taking the two lots that we, or requesting, to take the two lots that we currently own and make them larger, and so we can still rebuild two units, is in a nutshell.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, we'll close the public hearing and we will go to discussion from the table. Everyone has seen and what they're doing. For me personally, I salute you for doing that.
Thank
I
you.
think that's the best, in our rebuild, that's the best world we could hope for. I see planning approved. Is anyone, any other comments? Does it speak for itself? All right, Chair will entertain a motion. More further discussion.
Before the motion, let me just make my normal thing I say on these. We do need to devise a good way to memorialize this. We should be putting something in the public records and showing some kind of a replat. We haven't really come up with a perfect solution on that doesn't overcomplicate things, but we need to be very aware that we at least need a strong paper trail of this. Otherwise, people are gonna get confused in the near future when some of the people have changed.
Well, that's a great point. We have discussed that about, in order to get a replat, now they're gonna have to get something from Munster, some letter to take to Bay County.
Bay County is probably gonna need something from us before they will even change these parcel lines and things I need.
That's right.
Right.
We want that represent, I mean, you understand how that process works. Just, if we vote yes, that still lays the responsibility on you to get that replat.
Correct.
At the
I-
county.
And I am familiar with that process.
Okay.
Where it will essentially be a re-recording of the original plat. Someone did the difference in the size, yes, but I assume we will need something from.
Oh, definitely.
From the city to approve.
That okay, they should not do that without
That's correct.
a letter from the city signed by the administrator giving them approval, that the city has approved it, so.
That's correct.
Is that?
That's exactly what I'm talking about, because the spectrum of options is anything from a very elaborate replat that will spend thousands of dollars creating to just trying to get it through informally. I think we at least want to be in the middle.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Do you have a surveyor that you're working with that could create the meets and bounds of the new parcels?
They're in the package, or they were provided as.
Yeah,
And-
they are.
And again, that surveyor is a licensed professional
Yeah.
that gives you a document that becomes a public record, so that
Yeah, this-
they can take part of, plat one and part of plat two and subdivide those pieces and create one piece that is all of one and part of two and so on and so on.
And then ideally it gets recorded in the plat book so that people find it when they're looking at the old plat.
Yes, Dean.
It doesn't get recorded in the file. It only gets recorded at the clerk recorder through the deed.
It's only gonna show up in a title search.
That's right. It's not
Yeah,
gonna
it's
show
not
up
gonna-
in the
that's
plat.
right.
It's not gonna be in the plat.
That's still helpful.
But in our minutes, we also need that maybe a little more detail.
What we are doing, now that I'm going back through the minutes and I've been working with Gina, we're setting up a public records area in our storage room where I keep the minutes from the P and Z meeting with the information, then I'll further record it in the minutes and attach the minutes to where it was approved or not approved. So we have a record of everything that happened with every property that we've gone through since the storm.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, back to discussion or motion.
I make the motion to approve the replat of 113 39th Street. Unit 1.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
All right, moving on to number 2, Mario, that is,
It's 117 South 38th Street, Unit C. And in essence, back in November, the planning and zoning and the council meeting approved units A, B, D, and E. And we missed the letter C, so this is just adding the letter C and helping set up the setbacks, so that everything is consistent. And I'm assuming it would be similar format to what we just talked about, but it helps to have this all in a recorded document, in some shape, fashion, or form.
For a variance, it's less important for it to be recorded, but we do need in our own city records, a good, solid written document saying exactly what got approved.
I think she's here. She's smiling like she's
I'm
here.
working on it. Little by little,
I
bite
will
by
open the
bite.
public hearing for 117 South 38th Street, Unit C. Is there anyone here to speak? You're moving, so that means,
That's all right, I got it. I've got a site plans if y'all need them. This is the same as last month, except it's Unit C being added to it.
I'll put them in the packet for you later.
You got
it's in
it?
here.
This is.
Okay. In color?
I got you.
All right. So Unit C was a little late to the submittal. They're going through they're selling the property, so the new owners now are requesting to get the same variance as a site plan.
Okay, is there any other comments from the public on this variance request for Unit C? We'll close the public hearing and move to the table. I believe this was done last month. I mean, survey, right? Any
ties it all in. Yeah.
further discussion or motion?
Motion to approve 117 South 38th Street, Unit C variance.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Captain?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
You staying for the next one?
I'll stay up
I
here.
go off the road. All right, number two, Mario, please.
Number two is 26 South 42nd Street, units A, B, C, and D. And again, this is working with existing lots that were destroyed during the hurricane and making modifications to the 7'5" setback on the westerly setback only, and on D, requesting 7'5" on the eastern side setback only. And the proposed site plans and surveys are within the package.
All right, we'll open the public hearing for 126 South 42nd Street. Is there anyone here to speak? Next, go ahead.
This is the same type as the 37 and 38th Street townhomes. You have the original footprint, and then for the two interior lots, the B and C, those were the furthest landward, so we requested to add 10 feet to that and then keep the building frontage in line, which ends up being right at 14-foot landward addition on units A and D. And that leaves just over 43.5 feet between the proposed new building footprint and the north property line for parking. And then also rebuilding the seaward decks. There's a 10-foot covered deck and a 12-foot uncovered deck. So it would still stay the same multi-story covered deck for 10 feet, and then the first elevated floor that would have an uncovered 12-foot deck on the seaward side. And there are no encroachments into the overall side setbacks, just the adjoining property lines and parking walls.
Is there any other comments on this variance request?
It's a question for our building department, North Lance. Despite increasing the footprint, is the impervious surface standard still met?
Yes, sir, they're all under the 50% for the high density residential.
I may be showing that I don't remember. Why is this in?
This is,
I'm a little
this, so
confused.
the ordinance for the building back in the same footprint is more or less just a formality at this point, because the verbiage in there says if you're encroaching any setbacks, outside, and you're going outside the original footprint, that you have to request a variance if you want to encroach the setbacks. And technically, the party walls are the property lines with a 7.5 foot setback, but they're already party walls with party wall agreement. So there's no provision in that ordinance to exclude party wall shared property lines. So it's a formality to me.
You've been through P and Z with this and now here to us because of the dang good party.
Yes, sir. This is I think it's the fourth one.
So a little more background on that. We have two different situations in the city. We have residentially zoned areas and commercially zoned areas. So this is a residentially zoned area. And if you're trying to build townhouses where they're going to be attached on the parcel lines, the process we have that I understand has been used here for a while, which we haven't had used recently until the hurricanes. If somebody wants to do a no setback townhouse, they come and get a variance. We talked about this last meeting, there's other ways to do it that may be better. In comparison, if this had been a commercially zoned area, our code already lays out the process for this to all occur at the staff level, as long as the proper documentation is provided, and the variance isn't needed. But I think during the discussion we had in the prior meeting, there's some reluctance to take that approach in the residentially zoned areas. So at this point, we haven't adjusted any of the rules. We haven't written up anything to make changes. So it's still an awkward issue that's occurring because of all the destruction from the hurricane. If it weren't for that, we probably wouldn't see any of these applications and nobody would be thinking about it.
When these townhomes were originally built, it was a much larger parcel of land, 7 feet and 7 feet on each side. That's really what the setback was for. What happened is once all these townhomes were built, it was then subdivided into these smaller pieces. So the 7 foot setback doesn't work with the smaller piece. It works on the 300 foot long original piece.
And they've already drafted their party wall agreements to extend that additional footage.
Okay.
And it wouldn't need to come to you if they were still the exact same footprint, but they're expanding a little bit.
Jim, you had a question? Oh, comment?
I just had a comment. I mean, we've dealt now with 3 variances because the request required a variance because they weren't rebuilding on the same footprint. And I know Gina and Andy were working on rewording the ordinance before he passed. And I think it would stop, a lot of the problem we're having right now, if we did reword the ordinance to allow for the party wall agreement. Because, if there wasn't any structure there at all, they could just go ahead and build without a variance. But based on the ordinance the way it is now, it doesn't conform.
If there wasn't a structure there at all, they'd still need a variance because they'd be building at 0 setback.
Because they're now individual lots.
Right. If it was a big parcel and they could fit it inside the middle of the big parcel, they wouldn't need a variance.
What we might need to do, if council considers it, is go to 0 lot lines on these townhome developments.
The parcels that have already been established would be like 30 feet or less.
Correct. Because if there's a
Or we
15
could
foot
just
wide
keep
parcel.
hearing, or we could keep hearing.
Yes, sir.
And that's sort of, if I'm hearing you right, you would prefer not to keep hearing.
Yeah, and if we can address and change the ordinance to allow for that, then we'd be fine.
Be a quicker process.
Yeah, I'm thinking that very thing here, he is, been through y'all
Keep going.
areas today.
Yeah,
and
it's
dealing with-
about a 6 to 8 week process on already getting in before the advertisement, and then we have to wait on variance to submit to
Can we task our administrator to give some language or our attorney to see that we cover these, what I call sort of clear-cut cases of,
Yeah. So I think what we're looking at is areas where we know historically there've been townhomes and the lots are narrow. What is a good threshold of it's so narrow that you don't need setbacks? 30 feet, 35 feet, 40 feet, 20 feet? Who knows the
well, we know something
layout?
at 15 feet, you can't have a setback on both sides, I know that.
You're gonna sleep sideways.
I'm leaning towards thinking 30 feet is probably.
How about just present us something so that we can, because I understand, I was sitting here thinking, I didn't remember we'd already done 4. Somebody's keeping count. Yes,
Back on mine, does that mean that I'm also gonna need a variance since I'm building attached townhouse?
wish you hadn't brought that up. I'm just trying to think of that.
Depends on
I think
zoning.
technically by by the definition in the ordinance, you do.
We requested an amendment to.
Well, quickly. I don't want to get into this, can what's the recommendation? Help, can we, let's address that we're gonna look at some language change first. And if we do it quick enough, the answer to your question is no. But by the land of the law now, when are you starting to build? Mark?
We would still have a closing with our neighbor to acquire their lot and then start working on building plans. And we're also still working with insurance companies.
Yes.
I would think it's, like they said, maybe it's just as simple as it's in these non-conforming areas where there were townhomes, is where the bulk of this is coming up. I mean, that's the area that needs to be addressed. So there may be a simple language of simply just that it's non-conforming, use, and it was a townhome, then they don't have to come to go through this whole process.
And we can justify it, because we've already got in our codes that if there's a unit there prior to the storm, they're allowed to build.
They're allowed to build back, right.
Unit back, and if there's not enough width to even cover a 5-foot house and setbacks, it's obvious that there has to be something.
So we didn't really answer your question. But what's the, first of all, is there any more, we're gonna get off. No more, anybody else? All right, let's get through with 126 South 42nd Street, either discussion or motion.
Make a motion to approve 126 South 42nd Street, units A, B, C, and D, setback variance.
Second. Second. We have a second, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Before we leave that clarification, we're gonna look at some language that helps us get through this process quicker in those cases that I think everyone fully understands where those fall. And on Mr. Bittner, I think my recommendation is that's what's on the books. You're gonna apply, come through the administrator, and if he sees a way that we can make some adjustment at the time you apply, then I think that, for me, I think you need to start that process, whether or not you actually finish it or not. I think that's
It'll be in progress, so it can help.
yeah, we'll just have to see, but that's,
Go back through the variance request, go to the
well,
variance.
I don't know, I don't think we can just say don't do it.
Well,
The way
it's up to
written.
you, but the problem is if you wait a few months and then find out in a few months you gotta start the process, you're a few months further behind.
Just to say.
I think it's unfair too, because we've changed the fee for a variance, now I think it's $300. I don't think he should
That's
be
right.
charged
I
$300
agree.
again to go through the system when we're dragging our side.
That's another, I totally agree, that's, I'm suggesting it help. Yes.
Well, he may not need that variance, he may very well be building within the footprint of the old structure. I mean, that's a possibility. No.
I mean, we're going to 3 structures.
Well, yeah, but they were all attached, so
Yeah.
the footprint's
Yeah,
same.
I mean, we meet the current setbacks between our building, our 2 buildings and our neighbors' buildings on both sides, but we would not have 7.5 feet in between the townhouse.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you're building on that footprint, you wouldn't need a variance.
Yeah, but there'll be, I mean, when you only have, I think the lots are 16 feet, and by the time, you have to do stairwells and all that now to meet the setback code, you don't have a big enough unit to build on.
So you're not gonna.
You gotta be wider,
build.
yeah, you gotta be wider to have a reasonable floor.
Well, if I'm just gonna say for Al, if he ends up through the variance process, I don't think we should do it. I don't think that, and if we we can avoid that, I think some of that's gonna be the timing. And I'm gonna defer to our administrator to, when you see him about what, you know, about here's what I'm trying to do and want to get started, trying to work out what's the best way to deal in your situation with that. Is that
So,
fair
it
enough?
can't be reopened for a vote with the variance, or does it have to go back through staff? Since we know what the issue is. I mean, there's no more survey or anything I can do that's, I mean, it's gonna be the same
It's gonna have
document.
to be an app, I know it sounds, it's government, it's gotta go through the right process, or we'll end up stepping on our toes.
But we very well might change the ordinances enough to allow for something like that, but if, depending on how much you change things, it might or might not capture the situation. It doesn't have the most narrow lots in town, I think, now that they're combined.
That's true,
Now
that's
that he's
true.
combined, they're a little different.
Yeah, the safest way is, and we've all acknowledged here that in your case, because of the fee part, we don't agree with, but it may have to go through that process, but again, I'm gonna defer you, Mario, to work out what, and how fast we might can do that. Is that fair enough with everyone, unfortunately? Okay.
I would make a suggestion on your replat, then, if you would maybe change the form, to ask one of those questions on the front end. Because if I could have done it at the same time,
Exactly.
you know, that
That's
was.
a good point. We need, we could have had a box for that too.
I think the general approach that would capture the most situations like this is if we refer to an area where prior to Hurricane Michael was an attached wall, zero setback, that as long as they're meeting impervious surface requirements and they're not encroaching into other setbacks besides that attached area, that we could have it be approved at the staff level. But you gotta take a look at that and see if you're comfortable with that, and that's the way to cover the most situations.
Well, I think it's fair too to say that all of us here have, we want to help our people coming back with the least amount of involvement from this table. And I think if we keep that in mind, and yet, as you just said about there may be some situations that we don't, if we just be as flexible as possible, then I think all of us are gonna be comfortable. And that's something that's come from this table from the very beginning. We try to help people move along, and I wish we'd have thought of that before you, but we're learning too. This is sort of all new. All right, are we ready to move on? Yeah.
Before we leave this,
Yes.
in riding around, looking at the different places that we had to check out, I noticed there was no signs, notice of, variances or whatever. That's just over the past month, so a little lost communication, I know. But in questioning it, I found out that sometimes our signs get missing, which is a very expensive situation, it's about $300 per sign. So maybe we ought to look at trying to get a deposit on these signs until they go back up or go down. That's something I just want to bring up, something we can look into or whatever. $300, a lot of money.
Yeah, and the signs are critical. I didn't realize they weren't being posted.
Right.
They're-
Well, that's
they're
lost
absolutely
communication this past month. It's nobody's fault, it's just fell through the crack. But it made me start looking at other stuff too.
And it was just last year, last year.
Think somebody's stealing the sign? I mean, they would do.
We have had a couple that have not been approved and the sign goes missing, and I don't know if it's a retaliation kind of thing. Thomas, do you think it's a major issue? I mean,
So a lot of money was done on this, I got paid for, 6 that paid for. Yeah, all
hopefully these signs start disappearing. Maybe if we tack something like, obviously if we tack something on it where we have something to get the money back. Not necessarily $300, but maybe $50, $100, just to say, hey, let's make sure we get the sign back. That might help us make sure we get our sign back when we're done. Maybe to encourage signs not to go missing.
Reduce the retaliation side of it.
A little bit.
Yeah, I know.
Or if the sign goes, now, I mean, that's what we talked about it without those. If the sign itself goes missing, is there a way we can try to recover the cost of the sign for the person we got? I don't know how all that works.
We generally take them down after the meeting, because if we have to extend it.
Well, when the signs go missing, we got to buy more, and I'm up here asking for more money. from
Something
y'all.
that doesn't taste right, you know.
There are actually some locations where they require the applicants to go buy their own sign every time, which is a nightmare, but just requiring a small deposit would not be
Yeah,
outlawed.
$50, and like I said, it's a deposit, you get it back when the sign gets returned, sign's in good condition, good to go.
Just kind of to emphasize how important this is. I'm not sure that it happened, but if we didn't have signs up for the variances we approved today, somebody would have good grounds to challenge what we've done already.
And I would say that too, except in both of these variants we're talking about is a party one. We're not talking about where we're giving someone that they can variance from 20 feet in front to 6.
We're also talking about changing the underlying rule in the next couple of months to allow this. That helps.
Right. So, okay, you threw it out there. I'd rather chew on it.
That's me.
I mean, I'd rather just present something, or either if you're comfortable now, you can present what you wanna do. We can, I mean, I don't know.
Well, this just came about within the past 30 minutes, so I need to think on it a little bit.
All right. You good with that? Is everybody else good with that?
Good.
Okay, moving on. We have a series of minutes from February, March. We can sort of do that as a consent item, as far as I'm concerned. Instead of doing each one, that's something we could add as a consent agenda item moving forward. Our minutes and tradition done under that format. So if everyone has seen these minutes, which we have in our package, have had a chance to review, if you remember back that far, that's over. Chair will entertain a motion to accept those minutes by consent. Make a motion to accept those motions by consent. We have a motion to accept. Is there any questions? I have one correction, and I'm just on page 75. I think Michael would want his names. It was failed. I guess I'm glad about that. That request was from Michael Kent, K-E-N-T. 10 years from now, somebody will know who Mr. Kemp was, and they won't know. So, if you could change that, that's the only correction I've seen.
It was K-E-N-T.
K-E-N-T.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little hard to hear it on the video.
I know,
and the
I understand.
cipher.
All right, we have a motion to second. Is there any objection to acceptance of the minutes? Let the record reflect passes 5-0. All right, moving on. Ordinance 740. This is the second reading. Okay, I'm just trying to get my bearings here. Do I have a motion to read by title only? So moved. Have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second to read ordinance 740 by title only.
An ordinance, I'm sorry. An ordinance of the city of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending the beach vending permit rules to broaden the times that a vendor may use ATVs and to allow certain wooden loungers to remain in place on the beach, temporarily waiving the requirement that an upland business must be operating, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification and providing an immediately effective date.
Motion for adoption.
I have a question.
Okay, when we make a motion for adoption, we'll open that to the floor.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance chapter 40.
So, all right. Questions or comments?
Yes. How does any of this, the changes, benefit the city? Since I see that all of the protections that were in the former ordinance have been taken away. So what is the benefit to the city of this?
You want me to assess, or you wanna?
I'm not gonna answer, I don't have an answer.
Well, this does resolve and settle ongoing litigation we've had by making the changes included in this ordinance. It does leave intact most aspects of leave no trace, and just adjusts the treatment of these licensed beach vendors.
Nick, I can't hear you.
So this ordinance, the adoption of it would be the completion of a settlement of ongoing litigation the city's been in for over a year. So that's certainly one benefit for the city.
Any other questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
All right. Number 5 is party wall agreement. I want to comment on this before we get involved. This was something that I don't think I was truly the father of, but I did raise the question. And I want to make sure that the reason I was questioning was, I don't know if it's a good idea, a bad idea, but I didn't raise it for government, for the city hall to be the one making the decision that this is what we should do. I was just trying to find out, was there a way that we could help our people where you're dealing with these townhouse situations? I never intended for us to dictate what, I've sort of got accused of that I'm trying to, somebody had told me I was getting into property rights. And I never intended when I commented about thinking that would make a good discussion, that I was thinking that we as government should say, boom, here's what you do, every time, all the time. I never intended that. So I think it has merit for discussion, and I'm gonna, Barb, can I just defer to you?
Yes, sir.
And start this out and see what you think?
Thank you, Mayor. And what I did was I just went on the internet and printed out a couple documents. Council will pass those out. We can provide some of these to the public after the meeting. But if you look at what's in orange, yellow with a green stripe that goes vertically throughout the page, that's your typical party wall. And that green line would be the center line of two property lines. And in the original build-out, that wall was common to both the east side and the west side. And in this particular scenario, the west side went down and the east side stayed up, and it doesn't mean that the west side can't go back. If the west side goes back, it has to go back almost identical to what it was before, which means it's using that common wall, which is where that common party wall really and truly does need to be maintained. And in reference to what the mayor's suggesting, there are hundreds of ways to do this. One way is with a party wall agreement, but the other way to do it is exactly what this drawing is showing, which is to build a completely independent wall foundation system for the adjoining building that's next door. So let's say the example that you have on the beach today, there were a bunch of two-story townhomes. And if one of those townhomes fell down and somebody chose to build another townhome in its place and they wanted to go 3 or 4 stories, the foundation on that other side couldn't support the extra load, so you would literally build your own building. However, what we talked about when we were talking in the variances that requires all of this going to a 0 lot line, that's really what you need, because that 7-foot setback no longer works when you have a 15-foot wide lot. So we really do need to do the land use change component that changes all of these townhome parcels into a 0 lot line parcel, which gives them the ability to build from property line to property line. And at that point, if they want to make an agreement with their neighbor, with the language that council has provided as an example, they can go in there and do that, execute that agreement, and then they can both build one wall and both attach to that one wall. But if the two neighbors are not neighborly, one can build one foundation, the other one can build another foundation, the other one can live with the existing wall that's already there, and the other one can build it. So there's so many options that I hate to suggest that we give a formal direction other than there are lots of options, and you providing this agreement just helps facilitate people that do want to work with one another. But an architect can design it in any way, shape, fashion, or form with the help of a structural engineer.
Okay, who provided this estimate, Charles Austin? This is Lance, is it, or from Gina, who is
Yeah,
that?
this is actually the one for 37th Street.
37th Street,
Yep.
okay.
And you type in party wall on the internet and you get 100 things that pop up. And
Right.
there's
Well, based on what we have in our packet, and here what Morrow says about the multiple options, do we see an advantage to at least saying to the people that are trying to build, and they are neighborly, that here's a sample of what you can do that gets, I'm just saying, we don't say you have to do it, but we're saying that here's what this would be helpful for everyone if we wanna look at, here's a sample of what others have done. Is that staying within our scope of?
The main thing would be, the main concern would be making sure they're aware that there is such a document, because a lot of folks aren't. And then when you have something happen that just happened, then 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have 1 or 2 out of every group that don't wanna do what the rest of them wanna do. And there's.
Really?
Yes, that's hard to believe. But this is more or less, I mean, I guess my thought would be that if there was a way to make folks aware, as opposed to maybe not forcing them to do it, make them aware that this is it. And Gina even mentioned, putting a checkbox on the development application that just says, do you have a party wall agreement, yes or no? And then that strikes the question, what's this allowed, would I even need it? And just to make folks aware that their life in the future will be a lot easier with this.
It would be in their best interest.
And we can
Yes, Jim.
add a sentence.
Yeah.
under
We've
that
we've
box.
discussed this at length in the planning and zoning board, it's basically what Lance said. Put a block in there, do you have one? We've even discussed making it kind of an incentive to have one, like maybe giving them a discount on the application to 10% or something like that. Because right now, I've got 3 friends that all live in either a duplex or a triplex, that the people that they're in there with can't agree on what they want to do. So nobody's rebuilding right now. So if people are made aware that this kind of agreement is available and they're encouraged to do it, they're more than likely to do it. And I think there were cost was floating around, a party wall agreement runs around $300. Is that what the
This one was $200.
$200. I mean, that's cheap insurance to ensure that you can build in the future. So if we simply make it a part of the process, do you have one? And if we do something to encourage them to have one, we're gonna be a lot better off in the long run.
We're gonna add the do you have one box to check with a sentence right below it that says, if you do not have one, we suggest you have one, and the city is not liable for any problems you have when you don't have one. That's helpful.
Well, yes, Bill.
I'm kind of in the other side of the fence. Kind of thought about this, and I was initially with you on property rights and going too far, but I think it's not only the first parties that build, it's the party that then buys the house or the townhome down the road that doesn't understand party agreements, and then something happens. So we wouldn't be in the situation we're in had we required party wall agreements way back when, and I know they're more popular now than they used to be. So I feel like we try to protect our citizens' rights in a lot of situations, on building, 140 mile an hour wind load, impact windows, pervious, non-pervious. And I think this is a very important item that we should consider on allowing, making the permit application people have one in place. And we have examples we can give them. If it's $200 to have it done, I don't think that's being unreasonable from a town. And I think if you talk to the people that are stuck in the middle right now, they would have been glad to have this happen 20, 30 years ago. So I'm just trying to look out in the future, and I feel like that'd be a good thing for us to go that next step and require it. I know everybody doesn't agree. If it's a fallback position, then that's better than what we have now.
Yes.
I run a financial institution as well, so from a lending perspective, I would encourage you to talk to contractors and lenders about that process. Because usually there are other things to do about utility easements that go through and under and those kind of things. So trying to build a single unit on a small lot that is going to be attached to an adjacent neighbor, you're asking for a lot of problems. Can you imagine trying to live in your unit when someone's driving pilings in, and what's going to fall off your wall, and all those things? If it's an attached unit, they need to be built at the same time from a perspective of litigation would be my recommendation.
Yes.
I'm a little bit familiar with Alabama real estate law. This is a question I guess for all of you. Is there a state law that, and we're really talking about attachment easements here, on attachment easements as far as legalities go for sale of property and that sort of thing?
I don't think so. I think this is all set by local governments, and the bigger issues are not really the upfront construction. It's working through disputes and damages years later. That's what these attachment easements are most helpful for.
Yeah.
Well, maybe asking him, I've sold a few, attached units, and it was to my understanding, because I've always drew up a party wall agreement for the units, that a financial institution pretty much requires it.
We're going to be looking for it.
To be looking, to sell, so getting back, it may not be y'all's place to require it, but definitely to try to get people to realize that this is for
Well, this
people.
came to me, and people were asking me, and I said, well, have you talked about a party wall agreement so that you can try to get your neighbor on board? They didn't know what I was talking about.
No, but
And I thought, well, so they went ahead. I told them, just research that, or ask your attorney, and people signed it, and they were happy, but they didn't know about it. So I'm sort of liking at least let's, I don't know if educate's the right word, we'll use that to let them know.
I have one other question.
Yeah,
When you
go
get a
ahead.
minute, I don't have the LDR with me, but there's something in the LDR that says about drawing up an attachment easement. Now, I'd have to go back and find that, but there is something in our LDR, maybe it's not on the same level.
That
Maybe
means
it's
in there
people-
is different, that's different, truly.
Well, saying you have to
different
draw
than
up, you
party
have to draw up an attachment easement, it's almost saying you have to draw up some sort of attachment easement.
Yeah, it's in the LDR, it's in the sections that are, it's not for the residential sections, it's this process where it's more automatic to be able to build with.
You know, where you can extend your property, extend, you have adjoining properties in attachment, you can move the building back further.
Yeah. So we do have, in our current codes, we have some of this, it just doesn't apply to all the situations that we're seeing.
Yes.
Our units were built in '83, and they have a party wall agreement, and they were, I think, required to at the time. So it has.
From the city, you're saying?
Yeah. And it's a record too, if I remember correctly. It's actually a public record. So any of the folks that have bought, since those units have been built, in their title work, it should have been that notification of that.
Yeah, but that's only by the owners. Back then, when the developer built them all, I'm sure they did have party wall. I'm sure Jason just said, when he sold, when he built, he had them. And I think that, but now it's not that way. Everybody owns their own little.
It's the ones that fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
But I think now going forward, as you're a builder, if I was to go build 3 units, I would automatically, I mean, my attorney would say,
Sure.
before we even did any closings on it, I mean, you gotta have.
And as an owner, I would want
Yeah.
to know that if my neighbor.
I just didn't know what that
roof
language in
leaks
there,
and
I
hurts
heard
my
that
unit,
attachment easement trigger.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we're facing, Michael has given us, has put us in a position, people are asking us for direction and help, and we're trying to, I think we owe them, I don't know about dictating, but I do like the idea of making it, letting them know that it's there. But I fully understand Bill's comments, because sometimes if you don't direct people, that land may sit there vacant for a long time. And that's not what we need. We need to encourage people to return, to build, and come back. Well, we put this on as a discussion item. Maura, you have any comments other than what you've shown us, or as far as from the city direction?
Again, I think all the way back in items number 2 and 3, where we were talking about creating a land use that is townhome, that has these smaller lots that then inevitably become a 0 lot line, is really the first step, because what we're doing now is truly having a 0 lot line location. But then on top of that, if one developer chooses to build 3 units, or each individual owner decides to build their own individual unit, having options is really truly not a bad thing. I agree, if one developer is building 3, then there has to be a party wall agreement. But if 3 neighbors are building 3 separate buildings and they choose to share a wall, there should be a party wall agreement. But if there are 2 neighbors that choose not to share a wall, and I choose to create a 2-hour rated wall, and my neighbor chooses to create a 2-hour rated wall, that's still a perfectly good scenario, because you're building 3 units, but there's gonna be a 4th unit next to you, and if you're in a 0 lot line, that other owner is not gonna attach to your wall because you didn't design your foundation to handle their loads. So that other one is gonna follow more or less like this drawing shows, where that other building is butt up against your building, but has a completely separate foundation and structural system to support it. So
Are we talking, is that a new foundation support system?
this side over here that's in blue and gray would be brand new. This is the old system over here.
Now, are we talking about pylons?
It could be done with pylons, it could be done with a spread footer, it could be done with concrete block. Just, again, hundreds of ways of building it.
And you're familiar with my situation?
Yes, sir.
I mean, and I struggle with trying to understand what we're saying. I mean, I've got a situation with a condo that misses the CCCL line by inches, and I'm not in it. The other 3 are in it. I can't even get them to respond to see about even getting a surveyor, an engineer, or anything like that. So I would like to explore the possibilities to rebuild, and am I gonna be able to come back in the center of that pylon, or am I gonna need to move over?
In your situation, if that pylon is straddling 2 lines, you've got an awkward scenario where, unless your neighbor says it's okay to tear it down, you're gonna have a hard time tearing half the pylon down.
I'm not gonna tear it down.
Yeah, so you, in your case, you would leave it in place, but if you wanted to build a bigger, heavier, taller building, or something separate, you could build, instead of in line with it, just a little bit further forward of it, or behind it, and
I
build
wanna
another.
use the same pylon.
If you want to use the same piling, I would get your architect, and again, chances are, pilings are typically done stronger than they need to be. They're just out there driving these things, and they're a standard size. Chances are you can get an architect that will use that as the existing foundation. But at that point, because you are on a party situation where half your structure's on one parcel and the other half's on the other, I highly would recommend that you would have a party wall agreement with your neighbor.
And if they won't respond to even getting a survey, I don't know if they would
And that's where it becomes awkward. I mean, you can get into a stalemate
Can
situation
I do
where
it
you
without their approval?
have risk.
You don't know how I could.
Now, he's gonna build his pile,
He's been built on his side of the pile.
Yeah, Lance, go ahead.
So you've got concrete columns in place now, right? If you,
Rick?
I'm sorry.
if you did a search, my thoughts would be that you may find some sort of party wall roof agreement, and houses that are built, I'm assuming the center of the columns will the center of the lot line. Most of the party wall agreements that I've found allow you to build back on that, and you build the full party wall, whether it's ICF or you build your half of the 2 hour separation. And when they come back, if they attach to your wall, they have to cover half of the cost of the wall, is how most of the party wall agreements are written, the ones that do that. So you may be searching, and you may find that, and if so, then I would say you can move forward without any consent, as long as you're gonna go outside that original footprint.
What you're saying is that party wall agreement has a life with a property, even if the owner no longer.
Right, and most of them have provisions, and this one's written up the same way, so you read through here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Most of them have provisions for if it's destroyed, how you handle moving forward, if the neighbor's not moving forward.
We redid ours in '01 and added a second floor, and so we had to protect our neighbor. And actually ended up putting a new roof on for them and that stuff too, so we had to protect it during construction and any damage, and that was all in our part of the agreement.
Okay? So, I like what Paul said about when we're looking at the ones that we know exist and will continue to exist, that party wall agreement maybe is a good place to put a box to check and see, can we just start with that and see where we go? Again, it's not a, and we could put a disclaimer for our attorney to put that in there, you know. Because I do fear that if we don't do something that either educates or they don't start exploring ways to build, that we're gonna sit here vacant. And that's, I think that's the part of it that's driving me to want to find at least some, at least a partial solution, give them a chance. So, we're gonna put some more bricks on you, and we're gonna say, help us between the building department, come up. And that's sort of, in between Bill and Jim, is that sort of where we are with, okay. Is that agreeable? And I like the idea that we've got something, that at least they can say, hey, here's a sample of what others have done. Let them see what it says.
Just as a point of information, it'd be interesting to monitor then forward for a couple of months.
Absolutely.
To see how many.
Yeah, see how many boxes we get checked.
After that.
I agree.
And Gina can report back and say we're 2 for 4, or 4 for 4, hopefully, or something like that, and then maybe if we're not where we wanna be, we can look at the
Look at
situation
something,
again.
good, absolutely,
and
put
some
monitor
teeth-
that and
put some teeth in it.
That's a good idea, and that should be easy to do from the building department standpoint as far as keeping up with these situations. All right, so we got direction there, we're good? Some shaking their head, some not shaking their head. All right, we're good. All right, thank you for your input. Neil, we got to you. No,
And you're gonna pass it to me.
Oh, you're passing it? Okay.
Again, one of the things that's been worked on is, replacing parts and replacing facilities that we've had in the past. And this is one of those opportunities where FEMA, is potentially providing some funds to rebuild these parks. And built into this contract is an assumption that we're gonna get about $840,000, I think is the number. gonna be on page $120,000. So on page 113, that's the construction cost for, the sheet pile wall. No, these are just the bathrooms. I'm confusing another contract that's currently out to bid. These are just for the bathrooms, and pavilions.
Yeah.
So within that, there is a cost index that's available on the web, and you can plug in the value of the building and then the complexity of the building. And bathroom facilities are generally not that complex. The only thing that makes this a little bit complex is because it's in a coastal high hazard area. So you would bump that price up, and the $56,000 that they have for their cost to provide architectural service is within line of the standard cost. What I would ask is, Dina and I have a meeting later today with a Mississippi State University that's providing some free architectural services. And if we could explore that, we might not need to execute the $25,000 component within this contract. So the prices are within line, understanding that all of this is contingent on FEMA money coming in, so.
My comments are that I never thought we would spend $820,000 on Sunset Park. I don't know how you can throw that much money at Sunset Park. So did they see the layout of the land? Did they see did DAG see the big parcel that we're going to put a parcel?
Yeah.
Talking about bathrooms and a shed.
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't want it to sound, I don't want to be real negative with that, but I don't understand where they got $820,000.
Yeah.
There's nothing in here that I read that says this is what we're gonna do. So I'm not for the fee, because I don't think $820,000 is reasonable.
It's a drawback to design to something that's more reasonable to.
I mean, we've got
we hope the
donations
park is
of
gonna
over
be.
$150,000 that have come in that are designated for Sunset Park.
This falls into the same category as $350,000 fixing the upstairs here. It's ridiculous.
Let me help you now, but don't let me get off on the ditch. But don't we have drawings that we've already contracted with for pavilions?
Yes.
For the canal and for the boat ramp?
Yes.
That is being bid right
And
now.
that's being bid now, and we have those drawings, we can pick one of those and we have a design already, right?
Yes, but there is a reuse fee, and architects are entitled to a reuse fee because they hold the liability for the new location and everything else, so.
Is that $840,000 worth? That reuse fee?
No, the $840,000 is to build the building. The fee for the architectural services is $56,000.
That's just for Sunset Park.
Yes.
That's not counting boat ramp.
Those are separate.
Those are separate task orders.
This task order is just for Sunset Park.
Yes.
2 bathroom or a bathroom and a shelter. That's what the picture was.
Well, Mississippi State's now providing some of
The landscape.
landscape. What else is gonna go there? I mean, what else did we plan to go there? So, has anyone seen what I haven't seen have they done a layout?
No, this would be the first step for them to do an actual layout. Dewberry's providing the civil portion of it at no cost to the city, so the parking lot and sidewalks, we can provide the design for that. This would be, I think, pretty much just the pavilion and the restrooms.
Was the $820,000 construction budget based on some indications of funding we think we had available from federal sources, or that's just a number that was selected for a nice facility?
Very
Yeah.
nice facility.
I don't believe we've discussed that budget with them.
So there's, at least right now, we have no reason to think that we have funding sources,
No. No,
not for each one.
no.
Well,
No, the architectural services should be reimbursable by FEMA,
Yeah,
so this task order should be.
The task order should be, but if there's not $820,000 to build the building, we don't need to spend $56,000 if there's $820,000. Cart before the horse.
Can we do this in-house? It's a small. It's not
Between you and me.
Well, I'm trying to look at both of y'all at the same time. Can we do, I mean, we used to do these parks on the damn map. We draw them out and we build them and then it was just, I know, and I'm saying that somewhat specific, but this to me is money that I'm just, Dag's got me buffaloed with this number, which ultimately results in the $56,000.
The fact that we've already got a set of construction documents that are already out to bid, to some degree, let's let that bid come in and we'll know how much each one of these buildings actually cost. And we may turn around and decide not to build these buildings to the level that they're being built. But I mean, keep in mind, these buildings are designed to withstand what y'all just went through. It is a foundation that is way bigger than what you've had in the past, and it is concrete block walls with all the cells filled and rebar and a roof that is all tied together properly.
And FEMA will allow us to rebuild with mitigation and,
Correct.
come back with something stronger, but up to a point, which is 100% of the cost of what was there to begin with. So my gut feeling is we won't get all the way up to $800,000 with that. Now, we can still, under FEMA rules, come back with something that mitigates that structure, but
Again, to me, if we backed into this thing, find out what FEMA's gonna reimburse, and if FEMA reimbursed $207,000, then we work from the $207,000 and have the architects and or us, if it's simple, we could do it in-house.
Well, I've sat in enough FEMA meetings and I'm becoming more and more concerned that our appetite is like going to a cafeteria, you put more on the plate than you eat. And in Mexico Beach, at some point, has got to find a scale that we balance these grandiose things that we want versus what we can afford.
And along those lines, Mayor, keep in mind, if you go to a cafeteria and you eat too much, and
That's right.
what happens? We also have to consider the workforce that we have and what we can afford to maintain and upkeep, and then there's insurance, and then there's electricity, and there's lots of other things, so you can grow outside of your own capacity. I could buy an F-350, but I can only afford an F-150.
Yeah, Rob.
Does all this stuff that's like on city property with parks and stuff, does that have to be built back to the structural code that's in place now?
The new code.
The new code?
Yeah.
You know, I like what you said about that. The town I came from, Oldsmar, was a small town, like this place was, and it got a little bigger and bigger, and all the infrastructure that kept getting built, all these huge parks and this and that. 4 or 5 years down the road, the taxes had to go way, way, way up to start maintaining this stuff. You know, I like that point that you said about this, chewing off too much for what we have now.
All right, so we're okay if we table this, see where we, see, I like the back
We'll back
end
up on the
approach.
code.
Yeah, I like that. Okay? Dana? Is this you? I thought it was.
miscellaneous. So, this is a change order for MX1. The CT panel, which houses underground power, and transformers for the power company meter, Duke's Power, or meter, is large. So there's not enough room to put it on our elevated platform. And also, there was concern about putting it close to the entry door to the building. So, this is it's a two-part change order. Part of it is to relocate that panel under the building and put it mounted on a pole. that shouldn't be an issue with any certain, everything's being elevated above 500-year flood for MX1 as a critical facility. This particular piece of equipment, Duke says it can be submerged and it will not damage it, so the fact that it would be under the building is not a problem from that standpoint. The other part of the change order is to add into the contract a window air conditioning unit for that control building, because all of our electrical controls inside heat up, so that will ensure that they don't heat up above a certain temperature.
What was that? Again, add
An
what?
air conditioning unit to the window, like a window air conditioning unit to the control building. So the total change order amount would be $2,371.26, but we still have contingency under that contract, so there wouldn't be an increase in the actual contract amount through this change order. Also, due to the controls and the length of time it's been taking to get those in, they've asked, and I've discussed it with Thomas, an increase on the completion dates. So that would move this project out to be final completion of March 5th, substantial completion February 23rd.
What was this building now?
The MX
Master
Master Lift
Station,
Station.
in Canal Parkway. Canal Parkway on the right.
You call it MH1.
That's the code for it, Master Lift
That's a
Station.
concrete building down there where
We don't buy those.
You put a air conditioning.
That's already cut out for it. There used to be one there.
So this is a change order that is covered by the contingency.
Correct. And we still, even with this change order, we have about $48,000 left in contingency. And this project is obligated and we have been paid, so we're not waiting on funds from FEMA or the state.
What's the increase? Is there an increase then?
The change order will allow us to use $2,371.26 of our contingency, so the contract amount does not change. It just allows us to use that contingency
And it allows additional time.
and additional contract.
Okay? Motion or discussion? Increase your change order. Accept
Make a motion to approve the change order for MX1, include an air conditioner for the window unit and completion date change to February 23rd. We used $2,371.26 for this project.
Second. Question? And just so I'm up here, I'm following, this is, what are we air conditioning in X1?
You know how the water,
So
how the water plant has got air conditioning,
Yeah.
climate control, that's what we have to have for MX1 also, because it's got the same style of starters and equipment. That building has to stay air conditioned at a certain temperature, to keep controls from overheating.
We have a motion second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy? Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Okay, Dan. What else?
Wow. Wow.
Couple questions while you're sort of up. You and I discussed Salt Creek. But have you talked to them about their completion date?
I have not, that was on my list of things to do, that.
What's their contract date?
I would have to look it up.
Isn't it this month?
I don't know off the top of my head. but
I thought, okay, if you don't know, I thought,
I can look it up right now.
While she's looking that up, and I bring up something, I
Okay.
just wanted to thank everybody on behalf of the city for our Thanksgiving luncheon. We had an anonymous donor donate 600, and Mr. Kathy donated.
no, the donor donated everything.
Okay. And we had a nice successful luncheon for Thanksgiving. We confirmed this morning, we're gonna have a Christmas luncheon for the employees and planning and zoning and
Great.
inviting everybody. It's gonna be on Friday, December the 20th.
To answer your question, December 23rd.
Know what?
No, there's no way.
You know what?
It's just like a dollar, I'm just like a.
So what do we do?
Well, we will have to increase the contract time. I'm trying to find out when they expect. I know that the concrete structure, prefab structure is supposed to be arriving soon. I don't know the actual date though. That I will find out, but we will need to increase the contract time on this one.
Just file?
I believe it's justifiable because of the getting started and trying to navigate the existing structure on the opposite side of the canal. As far as that one being undermined, their slab was undermined, a lot of that material under the house, the white one across from the, got washed out during the storm. So as we got closer and closer to driving piles and we did the pre-drive, or the contractor did the pre-driving survey, we were trying to give that homeowner a chance to stabilize his structure before we started those vibrations. So there was a lot of back and forth in the beginning between our contractor and his contractor. That all got worked out, but now we're slowly driving those piles. And again, remember, we have in place that vibratory equipment so that we don't exceed vibrations that would affect either house. And in the long run, all of this comes down to a liability issue for the city. I think taking it slow to make sure down the road we're not held liable for any damages was an important step. And that wasn't the contractor's fault, it was the situation in terms of how damaged that house across the canal was by the time this project started.
By January, when we meet again,
Yes.
will you have something that we can wrap our arms around when they're gonna be able to get that done?
Yes. I will say, yes, I will absolutely check in, make sure, and then also up to date you with when that structure's supposed to arrive. It does seem though that once they started driving piles, they can move pretty quickly with that.
Oh. Okay, thank you. What about the bid for the marine?
The bid for the marina, is to be open. We sent out an addendum today, so it should be 3 o'clock next Wednesday. We issued an addendum with many questions with regards to the seawall repair. And based on the pricing, because it's such a complex project, we decided to move that back. Next Wednesday is the bid opening for that, and that's also when we'll find out about the pavilions. But the complexity of that project, if we're gonna get good pricing, we're kind of listening to.
Are they by addendum, so you can take out and put in?
The bid is set up and it is broken into, I don't remember off the top, I think there's 27 line items in that bid form. So it is split out between, yes, the pavilions are their own.
The
bid.
electrical for the marina is it a separate?
The electrical for the yeah, well.
Pedestals and all of the work that's gotta do to get our marina back functioning.
Yes, the way the bid is, we can split out the marina, the boat ramp, the pavilions, yes.
Thank you. Then you have miscellaneous? You got anything down
No,
there?
we're just waiting for the contract for upstairs to get finalized so we can get going upstairs. So
When does that expect?
Well, we got the draft of it yesterday, so it's just a case of going through it, adding everything extra that we need to, and then get it to Thornton's. Yeah. So we're getting there.
Because of the comments Bobby made last about our special events committee and CDC putting on the gumbo festival, I think that if they come to the realization that that's not gonna be available, or they're still waiting for us.
That's gonna be my question.
Okay, I beat you to it, I'm sorry.
Thornton's are ready to go the moment we have all the paperwork squared away, so it's just,
And what are we, is that in your ballpark, or tell me where we are?
It is now. Initially, we thought Taunton was gonna provide a contract for that, and that didn't happen. And so Dina and I think we got it 98% done yesterday. So finished the details this morning.
Okay. I would say he's ready.
He's ready. I talked to him 2 days ago, and and he said he was willing to go once, because, as Nick said, he didn't have a simplified contract that we worked off of. Nick wasn't aware of that, so when Nick was made aware of that, he very quickly turned around and made up our contract for us, which we now have, and we're just working on that.
Just fast track that as much as we can. So we can get that signed and, get our part back. Royal, how about you? I know you have some.
Mayor, I'm just absolutely amazed at all that you've accomplished. I've only been here for about 4 days, and in meeting with Jenny and Dina and Thomas and everyone, your normal budget is a $4 million budget. You've gone through close to 40 already. So, for that much work to go through one individual, let alone the person that's doing payroll, and I don't think payroll has been increased, but the workload has been increased for that same payroll. So my hat's off to all the employees that have been here for the last 14 months. And if it weren't for outside resources that augment, I know that ECP with building permits, my understanding was prior to the storm, it was one person, and now it's 3 people. There's literally 3 times more work going on in this municipality for the last 14 months. Because there's just no other way to deal with it. And it's not with extra work hours, they're working more efficiently within the hours that are here. So hats off to all of the employees that are doing all that. And the welcome that they've given me over at City Hall has been extremely nice. I know that there are lots of teams working on $200 million worth of projects, and as I mentioned before, we're being taken to a buffet, and I can leave a buffet awfully uncomfortable, and we need to, and one of the things that I've asked of the consultants is to put all that into one spreadsheet so that we can look at all the projects, so that the council at some point really needs to prioritize, because if you look at the 7 parks that we have, and if you look at the ultimate build out of those 7 parks, our department would have to grow by 3 times because we just don't have the resources to manage that. And again, they are wonderful documents because they're a vision for the future. It's not saying that we're going to build all those. It's just Mississippi State University put in hundreds and hundreds of hours into this document. And EPA. Into this document. It's a 49-page document, and if council would like, that document is done towards the tail end of next week. It'd really be nice to present that document to the whole community, not just the council. And instead of doing it in a smaller space, if the council would like, I propose to do it out on the white sandy beach and put a tent over it. And maybe we do it where we can do a projector on a blanket or something, and let everybody see some of the great visions that they have. And again, these are all concepts. It's not saying that we're doing anything. It's just places that if the council chooses to go as grandiose as those are, that we can. Some of them incorporate a master stormwater system that then makes parks within those stormwater systems. It connects the 2 master stormwater systems on the east end and west end of the city. It looks at the pier and incorporates a park in that area, Parker Park, Marina Park, all those areas have a great vision. But then there's also other projects like storm hardening 98, and also providing parking on 98, and conversations with FDOT for putting sidewalks along 98. A ton of projects in a beautiful future, but we got to pull the reins back because the horse could run wild. But again, good opportunities, but we really need to throttle it back and see where the council would like to go.
Question for you, do you have a work schedule for us? I mean, do you have something that the public and us I know you're available by phone, but have you looked, I know you had some meetings.
Correct.
But do you have something?
In essence, what has worked out over the last 2 weeks is a half day Monday, half day Friday, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. It puts me in Panama City Beach on Thursday, which is their council meeting day. So if I
Half day
can,
Monday,
half day Monday, half day Friday, all day
All day
Tuesday, all day Wednesday. And then again, if you need me on the half that I'm over there, I'm just a phone call away or a text or an email. And, that excludes 2 days that she works on, so I'll work on them too.
yeah, I understand.
I-
Are you
I-
half days morning or evening?
Um,
You say half days. You work in the morning?
On Monday, on this last Monday, I was here on the afternoon on Monday, and I was there on the afternoon on Friday. So I did the morning here on Friday and the afternoon on Monday.
I'm sorry he asked.
Well, let me tell you, I asked you when he's gonna be in town, and I got a text, I got an old text, I got an email that said I'll be there at 12:34. I swear, and I called him, I said, I'm just checking, are you there, it's 12:34, you there? I've never had him.
The phone will tell you when you're getting there, and I was just being smart.
Mr. Turner?
No, sir, nothing said.
I was thinking, March 18th will be here before we know it. We're fortunate to have Mario. I think it would be prudent for us to discuss at the next meeting, advertising for our position. And if we don't know anybody's intentions, I would rather get ahead of the game and put that out there, see what we get in here, and go from there. I would rather do that.
now. We got the, where we gonna put our applications in, or put an application in, to the League of Cities, and do the same thing we done before.
But that's, I just put it out there for, if we want to discuss it now, that's fine, if we want to discuss it next meeting, that's fine. I just don't want to wait till, you know, December just about over, January, February, March, it's gonna take us.
I would suggest we, do this, first week in January, first meeting. Everybody's life is a little bit different during the holidays. And I think we get more attention first year. Wonderful suggestion.
Well, just make it an agenda item then for January 1st meeting, we'll see what we want to do.
Kimberly wanted me to mention this, because I haven't noticed this being a problem.
Somehow I don't believe that. But go ahead.
Well, it has to do with people walking on the berms and walking through, and people, I haven't seen this happening, but I've talked to 10 or 15 people that have seen people out walking on the berms right through all the things that look like weeds, but they're not, and taking pictures and all this. And so I was trying to come up with an idea, and some people helped me with this. If we could have someone that could, I'm not talking about a policeman, someone on the beach that could politely tell these people to get off the berm, and the reason why. And it's a good humor person is what I'm talking about. And I actually talked to, Kimberly brought this up to me, and I suggested that when she gets back rolling in the money, like she was before, that she could help with this down the road. I've always thought that would be a good position, but right now, the people need to stay off the berms. I talked with someone here at the table, and they thought it was a pretty good idea, and they might be able to furnish some personnel to do this.
What time do you want to patrol it?
We have somebody in the back there.
I'm not volunteering.
Oh.
But I do have a observation. I've noticed that driving down the road that a lot of those footprints that are heavily in one area are at the end of streets that don't have dune walkers. The beach access, it may be helpful on those dead-end streets that don't have access to put a sign, maybe tell them, you walk 75 feet to your left, you'll see an access.
Well, they'd probably see a couple of signs too, but that doesn't make any difference to these people that don't. Most people that see what's there have enough common sense to know, stay off of it. But you'd think they'd have enough common sense to read the signs. They must be the problem. No, I won't say that. They're out of town, folks.
Are these signs right by the one that says no pets on beach?
Yeah. Yeah, except the pets have poured down the signs on there. Anyway, it's just a suggestion. It wouldn't cost any money to do this, if it's this bad. Suggestion was to use, no, Kimberly doesn't have any money right now. Was suggestion to use, some people in the fire department.
You and I talked about this last night, Mayor. You told me.
Yeah, when I called you, I didn't know what they were
Basically-
doing down there. I didn't know. I didn't know it was a fire.
No, of course, yeah, no. Basically, it was mentioned to me, and I said, well, we have our side by side, and that, you know, certain times of the evening tends to be a time when people want to stop, get out of their car. Get out of their car and want to take a photograph, walk down the beach, whatever it might be, and that we would use a side by side and a member of the fire department to be at the eastern end of the beach in such a way, obviously the bulk of the damage has been done, just to stop, talk to people, have a chat, and if they see anybody doing it they shouldn't do, they can politely inform them. And we have, since the conversation was had, we've done it every evening since, and in some cases we go down there after 7 o'clock in the morning just to see if there's anything going on. Without trying to drive up and down and ruin people's, you know, quiet time on the beach and so on and so forth. Because it's that sort of, you know, you're trying not to encroach on people's enjoyment of the beach by tearing up and down them side by side. So they're asked not to do it quickly, take it slowly, talk to people. So
I'm gonna change my state place that I usually run every morning to the beach side, so I'll help some too.
I'm assuming you mean running in your car and not actually on your feet.
I think that's all I had to say.
Thank you. I don't know.
Can I ask a question? When is this $10 million project on stopping the water from draining the beach gonna get started?
Good question. Army Corps, so we have a weekly call with all of those agencies. They're issuing that final report, as Mario said. Army Corps hasn't been on the last few calls, but we can reach out to them. I know they've given us an agreement, but I don't know that they've actually kicked the project off. I have heard that Army Corps can be a little slow with these things, but I will ask.
I'm not saying
Okay.
That's a good idea with it.
But we're not trying to police it as such. All we're trying to do is help,
Yes.
you know, protect what we
Good
put a lot
idea.
of time and effort into building.
Great,
It's not.
great.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, we got the, special events meeting first. I'm gonna suggest we use the, if there's no problems and if we got enough electricity.
Electricity. 200 amps.
There's no problem, so.
Boat ramp looks that area looks in pretty good, clean shape.
We got great parking, we got plenty of room, without having to maybe or whatever.
Yeah,
So
I
we
agree.
Sound good? Okay. Okay.
We can get plenty of power there.
Well, you gotta run that big air unit, or that cooler, so you got plenty of power sitting there.
Yeah, now,
Run that
we
big
won't,
cooler, so.
now, I don't wanna cook my sausage dog right by the cooler.
Fish cleaning table, is that what you
No,
said?
we gonna put, no, you ain't gonna be beside, you gonna be in it. Nice and air conditioning in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got plenty of power.
What that week?
Yes, sir.
You're awful quiet in the back. Do you have any comments for the public or for us as far as the police department?
If you see anybody else doing it, give us a call. We've got no problem walking down there talking. We got a day phone and a night phone and everything, and it's been posted uptown, so if y'all need us, just call. We ain't got no problem.
Do you have like a local cell number? I know the old police department had a local
Can you
cell.
give us that number?
Yes.
That's, I got it.
Yeah, Brock.
I got something that I would ask Mary, but we probably just not gonna know because I'm gonna be here a few days.
The daytime number is
Somebody-
850-625-9513.
Where does that take you? Where does that call? Who answers that?
That goes straight to the daytime deputy,
That, oh, okay, gotcha.
the one that's working shift work right now. And then the nighttime is 850-640-7579.
What was that first number? 625-9513.
625-9513.
And is the nighttime number also going to the shift?
Straight to the deputy.
Great, thank you. That's great.
Okay, Ron, go ahead.
The question I have, just what I see every day, you're talking about the grand plans, these $1 million improvements. I've looked at everything on the websites, I've been to presentations. As an everyday person just walking around, my question is, where are we at getting the city cleaned up? Although I go down to Maryland every day walking my dog. The mobile homes sitting there broken in half, they've been there for years.
We've been
I
sending
know we
letters
got the
out.
contracts out there and stuff, but where are we at getting that stuff out of here?
If it's property owner's responsibility, we're sending them letters and have sent them, trying to encourage them. We've set up, I forget the fines, we have to go through the special magistrate procedure that we have in place, but y'all recall what the fine was? So much a day?
$500 a day, up to $5,000.
Yeah, 5,000. But that's all, I mean,
No, I know it takes a
or
while.
we could go do it ourselves and put it on the, and we didn't wanna do it. We don't have the money to put it on the tax thing, but we're working more diligently than you might think in trying to get people to respond.
No, I'm sure you are, And I know a month ago, there was something, a month or two ago, a contract went out for FEMA money for demolition. Was that for some of these places?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, yeah, Bob.
Listening to, I know a lot of people out there, when we receive water bills, and one time we used to have updates of the projects that was going on the back of the water bill, which wouldn't have any postage or anything like that. And I was wondering, maybe just have a one-time thing. that
We need
people
to
know where
use
we
the water
stand.
bill better than we've been using it. I mean, that's one of our forms of,
Back of it,
of
just
communication.
where we stand on these different projects, and let everybody know what's going on.
Yes, and I agree, and that's something, Laura, if you could make a note of that to give us a little, like a little community.
Quarterly update.
Yeah, just something there that, so people know what we're trying to do. That'd be great. Before we leave, I've got a few comments I wanna make. And before maybe some feelings, and there's gonna be some people at this table or even in the audience that'll think I probably should dance around this topic, but I'm not gonna do that simply because of when I put my name on the ballot to run, I chose to do what I thought was in the best interest of the city of Mexico Beach. So I'm not gonna dance around it, I'm gonna speak more from my feelings. And it stems from and is related to that folder that we got at our last meeting about a business that's coming to town. And I thought about that, and I just want to say that we all here speak about charm, and we speak about character, we speak about quaintness and uniqueness. But what does that really mean, and what role does government have in trying to secure or protect what we all talk about that we like about Mexico Beach? And I think I've been a strong advocate, as this room has been, and as so many in this town have been, about trying to preserve what we have, because it is special. And to me, the mom and pop business community of Mexico Beach sort of the backbone and the heartbeat of that charm and of that character and of that quaintness and of that uniqueness. They represent a special group of people that are dedicated to Mexico Beach. And I want to just give you just a few examples of why I'm even speaking about this. At the tree lighting ceremony, I was asked to introduce what they call the honorary tree lighters. And this year, the Special Events Committee each year recognizes someone that has done above and beyond in the community, and they recognize him to light the tree. And this year it was Michael Stroggins and Hal Summer. And you may associate them with Killer Seafood, but that's not who was being recognized. They were being recognized for Camp Happy Tummies. And they did a remarkable job. If y'all remember the tent down by the church. And I was standing in the back, listening to these guys talk about how they felt about Mexico Beach. And I was thinking as I was hearing them, as a council member, and a person who sits at this table and makes decisions, that's the kind of spirit that I want to protect. If you had heard them talk about how well they were received, how blessed they felt that they had been able to operate a mom and pop business at the level that it's just a little small restaurant, and how they were driven to give back to the community, and they did so in the form of Camp Happy. And I was thinking about that, and how does this government, and at what level do we get involved to protect that spirit? And I was thinking about, if y'all remember, George and Teresa Hunter came to this city and said, I need some help. I need a little variance on my building to build back. And all of us received many emails about that. It was one of the most well-attended meetings we had, and when we voted in favor of that little aid to them, we got a standing ovation. Now think about, that's the spirit, I think, of this town and how they feel about the mom and pop business owners. And for those of you that don't know, there's a fine line between success and failure in a mom and pop business. You get an off year, slow summer, and there's businesses that can't survive here. And I was thinking, 3 days after the storm, I ran into Bobby Nobles. He's trying to get to his building out there on 15th Street. And he said to me, I said, Bobby, what are you doing? He said, well, I got to go survey my damage. I know the community's going to need me because of the supplies. I just don't know what condition my building's. And I thought about Nate and Bill at the marina. They don't have technically a marina business, but they adapted to their more like a general store because the community needed them. And when Lee Cathy lost his house, I'm sorry. But anyway, he lost his house, he lost his business, and he found 3 guys to take some metal off of a old warehouse that fell down to patch the roof so he could go to work. Same with Dave at the coffee shop, the same as Ryan Harmon and others in town. They all have a commitment to this town that is something that I think government should recognize. And I can tell you, if any of those people I named had a gas station, we'd have a damn gas station in Mexico Beach.
That's true. Amen.
So my point is that government has got to be more in tune with what we need instead of looking at a map that says zone commercial and we don't guard our gates, we just open our doors and we say, welcome in. Because the spirit of our city is at stake. We're vulnerable, we're weak, And that folder that I received last week is for monetary gain at this town's loss. The mom and pop business community, there's no one that I'm looking at now. I do see Jason, he's been in those shoes and he knows. But they're critical to what we all say we want to have here. And so I just want to be on the record for me. I'm not going to support a business that wants to come here at the cost of diluting the flavor of our town or not strengthening what I consider to be the backbone of this community. And if you looked at that folder, regardless of the business, I don't care what business it is that wants to come here, but at the size of that retail, over 30,000 square feet of covered retail area in a town of 1,100 people, it meets no model of any kind that this community has supported and has been supported by for 70 years. And I am fearful that if we as a government don't recognize what we say we want to protect, if we don't act like we want to protect it, we're going to kill the spirit of this town. And I believe in that strong. I'm done. Motion for adjournment.
Get the gas station.
No move. Second.
Good.
How's that
Jay might throw you down, but I ain't going to.